Hi, hello guys. Welcome to this. My name is Noria, and I welcome everybody to this YouTube channel. I like to react to some YouTube video, and well, in today's video it's a miscellaneous, but I'm going to react to one from Great Britain. It's called "How Did the British Empire Rule the World?" How did they do it? We don't know, so let's watch it together. And just let me know if you like the video and give me some reactions, and well, just enjoy. Start.
Farewell and adieu to you, fair Spanish ladies. Farewell and adieu to you, ladies of Spain. For we've received
The British Empire may not have technically ruled the world, but it was in
Almost.
fact the largest empire to exist at any point throughout history. Reaching across the globe and carrying on over multiple centuries, the British Empire owes its success and ability to expand so widely. The geographical position of Great Britain served as a major advantage to the growing empire. Given that the nation was an island, the likelihood of being invaded or conquered was somewhat lower than a country that was surrounded on all sides by foreign powers. Although Britain was not completely immune to incursions, it definitely benefited geographically, both in terms of external threats and when it came to any border disputes. Britain had a pretty clear and straightforward border between itself and any other nations. While Scotland and England split the landmass that was bilaterally united with the ascension of Scotland's King James VI to the throne of England in 1603, both states would together make up the nation of Great Britain by 1707, sharing their outward borders with nothing but the North Atlantic Ocean and the North Sea. This open position, with easy access for maritime expeditions, also gave Great Britain an upper hand when it came to reaching other countries and continents. Needing only to cross over foreign land when they wished to reach countries more inward on their continent, the Brits were able to sail to just about any coastal nation without much resistance. Still, oceanic adventures would not have been
really
so effortless for the British
to
Empire
compare.
without a strong naval fleet.
Of course.
This is where the size and power of the Royal Navy became a center point of British success. While Great Britain did not always
have
control
great
the
boats.
world's oceans, the reason they began to skyrocket as an unignorable maritime power by the 18th century is largely due to the fact that they invested more money in ships and guns than other naval forces.
And they have joined
The government and
as a
citizens of
pirate.
the British Empire truly believed that the future of their wealth was to be found through the ocean. Recognizing the importance of
That's a
overseas
manifestation,
trade,
oh my
as well as
gosh.
a fleet that could also defend their land if ever required, the Brits made sure to adequately fund the Royal Navy.
So
The
they were
Empire's
working
focus
hard
on
for that
trade
for many long
additionally
time.
contributed vastly to its triumphant transcontinental growth. Intent more on gaining wealth and increasing trade than on consolidating power through conquest, the Brits were able to create a more desirable environment for others to become a part of.
They just wanted to
After the
explore
successful
and have,
colonization
because
attempts
they
in
knew
North
there was
America
something else
and the West Indies
more
during the
than our
1600s, the British
limitations.
Empire began to establish a
I can relate
commercial
to the
system
British people.
that allowed for exponential success within Great Britain and its overseas territories. Colonies were granted monopolies for their products in the British market, and therefore were to conduct trade via British ships. In 1651, the Navigation Act would prompt the development of a closed economy between the empire and its colonies, thus creating a system where all colonial imports were required to come from Great Britain and all colonial exports were to be sent directly to the British market
My
by the way of British ships. During the same century, the British East India Company was established as a means of trade between Great Britain, East Asia, Southeast Asia, and India. Initially focused on the spice trade, the East India Company later
yeah.
incorporated other goods such as silk, cotton, tea, opium, and more. Politics made its way into the company later on, despite the origin being purely based on
So
establishing
they were
more
good at
trade
finding the
opportunities.
good in every
Driven
place.
limitlessly by the concept of controlling a global trade market, the British Empire continued to extend its reach across the continents of Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, and the Americas.
Shit.
While the process of colonization varied from territory to territory, one thing that remained consistent was the form in which these expeditions began. Unlike other empires who chose to expand through the use of military might and sovereign claims to power, the British facilitated most of their expansion through the establishment of trading posts and systems. Nonetheless, the British Empire was not a completely non-violent authority. On top of the Anglo-Dutch and Anglo-Spanish wars near the start of British expansion, the empire also engaged in conflict with its American colonies during the American Revolutionary War.
Yeah.
Later followed by the
With the
dissension
French
in
people, I
India,
think, but they won
succeeding
the war.
decline of the Mughal Empire, and leaving the British
Mughal
East India
Empire.
Company as a prominent political power in the region. The presence of Britain in India was also notably more forceful than some of their other trade-focused enclaves, demonstrated by the expansion of the East India Company's power through the threat of violence against those who protested. The continued tensions between the British and French were no longer secluded in India either, as the 7 Years' War erupted in 1756. Lasting until the Treaty of Paris was signed in 1763, leaving Britain as the leading power across India.
Spanish
and the
people were
world's
tired. They
oceans.
just want to retire
When
to
the
have some
American
sun.
Revolutionary War came in
Some siesta.
1775, after the British Empire responded to the no taxation without representation movement of the Americans by sending troops to try and subdue the colonies, France and Spain chose once again to go to war with Britain, now as allies of the newly declared United
choice.
States. In 1783, at the Peace of Paris, the British Empire was forced to acknowledge American independence, in turn relinquishing any control over their former colonies.
Oh,
Devising a new strategy after such a drastic loss of territory, Great Britain now turned its attention toward the continents of Asia, Africa, and Australia.
yeah, but they didn't even care. They were more territories to conquer.
Second British Empire. Though trade between the United States and Great Britain actually continued after the installation of independence, the empire chose to utilize the uncolonized coasts of Australia, which had been discovered by a Dutch explorer, Willem Janszoon, in 1606, and later claimed for the British Crown by James Cook in 1770 under the name of New South
There were
Wales.
centuries
Still
of
feeding
big
their fresh craving for
explorations,
expansion in
navigations,
South Asia,
and
the British
discoveries. I
suddenly
can't
engaged in
even
a series
imagine.
of conflicts after the Battle
And
of
how many
Plassey,
people died on the
which
way,
had occurred in
too.
1757. By 1774, the British Empire took on a chain of attacks. The Anglo-Mysore Wars were fought until 1799, followed by clashes with the Pindaris. Attacks on places like Sindh and Burma also accelerated the new consolidation efforts of the British East India Company, on top of what was referred to as the Doctrine Lapse,
The Doctrine
where the
Lapse.
Brits forbid the ascension to the throne of any Hindu ruler if they were not the natural heir. Once the current Hindu leader either died or was removed in some way, the British would
I've been in
occupy his
Jodhpur.
state and gain control. These acts by the British Empire, combined with other forms of forced westernization of the Hindus, led to the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857 to 1859. Tired of the current heavy-handed British rule, the Indian troops of Meru sparked a rebellion that would spread throughout the nation. Peace was
Peace.
finally declared in July of 1859, and the British
That was-
East India Company was scrapped.
That was a
Although
long
the empire
time since they were in
maintained
the
a level of
territory.
control under the crown until
Wow.
1947.
Wow. Yeah.
During this span of time, Great Britain set about making its
With
presence
Gandhi.
better known in Africa as well. Although the Royal African Company had been established back in the 17th century, finding ample profit in the slave trade until its abolition in 1807, It was not until the 19th century that the Brits realized the potential benefit of forming a trade route across Africa. With its eyes set on establishing outposts spanning from Egypt down to the southern half of the continent,
Wow,
the British
that
Empire
might
found
cost a
itself in a
lot.
race against the other growing European powers, such as Italy and Germany, which eventually led to the Berlin Conference.
I can't even imagine.
The conference, which occurred in 1884,
Crossing the
was
whole
intended to
continent.
create some harmony between the competing colonizers. Great Britain was ultimately
least they
awarded
just
most
wanted
of
the peace
northeastern
around.
Africa and all of southern Africa, meaning that at its peak in the continent, the British Empire ruled over approximately 30% of the African population. Globally, at the height of Britain's domination, it controlled roughly 22 to 25% of the world's land surface.
That's
and
a
by
lot.
1938, governed around 20% of the world's population. This remarkable prosperity was accomplished through a geographical advantage, supreme naval might, and the strategic focus on trade and wealth over
Yeah.
bullish sovereign power for the sake of an emperor.
Well, that was a great summarize of the big idea of British Empire. Like they just wanted to focus and manifest, as they said, that they just wanted to discover more trade and more goods and things. Like they wanted more to see what was around than even has this kind of power. Like yeah, we have to conquer everyone and everyone has to be the same, like the British or like everyone like the same like a British. So that was a really good point to see all of these great expeditions, but because at the same time this is huge to watch. Like there was a really big trades around the map. Like they almost conquer every, well, they say like 22-25% of the land. That's even a lot. And I was impressive to watch the crossing the Africa trade from the north to the south. That might cost a lot of effort, like really big efforts. So we had to admire the British ancestors, because they were really brave people back in time, I guess. And yeah, really having this kind of resilience mind that wanted to achieve more and wanted to go farther beyond their own limits, right? And that's a really good point to have in mind, even nowadays when we want to achieve something. Like, sorry, my neighbors are crazy. Like, the point is that to just have to have the attitude more than the final result, or just have this ego, like, I want to do this because I want to have success and blah, 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 blah. So I think this is the point. But yeah, great video. Just guys, let me know your reactions, or your comments about this video. What do you think about the British Empire? And well, what do you think about my reaction? And I hope to see you in the next video. Bye bye.